coming alive of many aspects of yourself that are not in the mind to be answered, to be analyzed. We gathered here today out of an incident that happened last night. That is causing you to look at it. So you came home last night and your right shoulder was hurting and you were already wondering, what did I do? Why is the right shoulder hurting? You couldn't think of anything. Then at the time when you were asleep and you were at your deepest point of sleep, it came into your dream because it came into your physicality, and so the dream expressed it. That an energy was so strong, it wrapped itself around your head and pushed into your shoulders, turned itself like a screwdriver, like a screw, into your shoulders, into you. And it pushed you in the dream to the ground, and the energy was so unpleasant. It was such a suppression, an invasion, that you even made a sound, not scream, but a sound like that in your dream, that then you woke up and you felt how it was happening really. You felt the rest of it. You felt literally this entity pushing itself into you through your shoulders, into your body. Just the triangle that we described before, into that area. And it felt very uncomfortable, of course. And in the next dream, from that point on, you were not able to have good sleep anymore, very nervous. You were shaking, your body was shaking. Your body was in stress. In your dream snippets, then you gathered, which is, of course, it's not important, but it's a part of the whole entire picture to get an understanding how these things can happen. Yeah, it's kind of like there you have a road that is slippery, and then if you have shoes that don't have traction, you may slip and fall. It's just a combination of things that then can cause another experience, and it's just being aware of the whole spectrum. And you then in your dream also got the information where this entity came from, which is simply interesting. It is just simply for informational purposes. It is not to, and this is why, of course, you also receive the information, because you're beyond that. You're beyond that consciousness where you would say, "Oh, well then." Any kind of, that you could make any kind of judgment on this, because this is simply a happening like the weather. Where does the cookie crumble? How do viruses travel? And this is a parasitical organism. This is some kind of parasitical energetic life form. Now, the old way of thinking that you have come from, but now you have graduated to a more expanded way of thinking, would be, this is a bad thing that is happening to me, because it feels very uncomfortable. It feels uncomfortable, however, because you don't have yet, on an awareness level, embodied the knowing that this, you can absolutely see, you don't have to turn it around, you just see it from a higher perspective, and that's like a turnaround. And that is that instead of and this was the beginning, was your take. In the beginning when it happened, you were in your weak zone because you were very tired. It was at night. It was uncomfortable. And again, you were taking it as from the victim perspective. And you were suffering it because you couldn't sleep anymore and you were thrashing and you felt all the implications of having now this entity in your body. You felt all the implications of it. And so you were still in this, okay, what do I need to do to get rid of this? That mindset. How can I get rid of this as quickly as possible? And you even thought that you could do it right there and then. So that indicates you were in resistance, and that is why, and that's the way you were wired. That's the natural way. You are first in resistance to an invasion, obviously. Now we are already shifting into the higher consciousness because you've been through this process for a long time. And so now is the time. Now you're ready to embody the next higher awareness, the next more expanded consciousness in meeting this experience. So yes, you did not have a pleasant night, the rest of it. However, you were able to shift into, okay, I know, hold on, first I need to higher my vibration. Oh, but that's difficult. I just want to sleep. I'm so tired, so that's difficult to do. So I'm just going to have to bear with it. And then there was also the knowing, okay, oh, I got it from, that's how I got it. And interesting, why would it want to come to me? And why has it come to me? So you went into interesting. And then you went into, okay, there's more inside of me to unearth, to meet consciously, to feel, to allow. There is something within me that is a matching frequency that provides a docking station where this entity can actually leach. There is a place in me that I am still unconscious of, that is still unconsciously suffering unconsciously suffering, hasn't been brought home yet, hasn't been loved home yet, hasn't been received home yet and fully felt, fully allowed because it's so painful. All natural. No indication of you're not good enough. No indication of lack of abilities. Any kind of judgment on your part, any kind of lesser unworthiness, lesser being on your part. So be very aware of these very subtle streams that will attach to that will create that out of that victim identification, that story, and allow then again that frequency to be fed by this incidence. The frequency of, well, I'm still being invaded by entities, so I must not be good enough. I must be too weak, not be doing my homework, not whatever. We don't even want to go there. But just another excuse to not be in the truth. And it's, of course, an unconscious excuse. That's the only way this excuse can exist. Yes. And it's from the mind. It's a mind mechanism that is extremely subtle and cunning, but when we understand it, when we know it, we can catch it, we can notice it, and that's all it takes. That's all it takes. So you were already more into the accepting because you understood, yes. So actually, this, I can turn this around into, okay, it's ready for me to go to the next step. I have to receive this, in a sense, suffering in order to pay attention to what is it within me that is the matching frequency and that is providing the docking station. And the entity to come out of resistance of it, because that is why the body is, why you're feeling these stress vibrations, is this very, and your heart is palpitating, and you're not relaxed. You just cannot relax in your body anymore after that happened, and you cannot fall asleep, only to a superficial level, and then as soon as you want to fall asleep deeper, you wake up instead. And so that's another, because it's like you cannot fall deeper with your nervous system because it's like this, it's so agitated. The reason why it's so agitated is because it's in resistance. And it's in resistance because there is not the full embodied consciousness yet there. That is the consciousness of full acceptance, full surrender, trust in all that is. And that is even a full welcoming. That is even a full welcoming of what happened. What happened, which is no one's fault. Not even that being's, not even that entity's. The entity is also just doing, what a hungry, starving person would do when there's a piece of bread. It would just grab it, even if it wasn't its own. Bread. Even though it is causing you unpleasantness. At the same time, now, you are at that, you have arrived at that level of consciousness, that this is another challenge. You've stepped into another class where your spiritual muscles are being challenged. And also, this is another, it's time, it's another healing process. You stepped into the healing process. All right, I'm here, I'm ready to witness this pain. I'm here, I'm ready to sit and feel this pain, all the suffering that is now being triggered by the entity. However, that is truly only that is there because it's already within you. The entity just comes in to feed off of it and thereby exasperate it, thereby make you aware of it. You have to put your attention there now. And it's showing you, because it's docking into it, it's showing you where it is. And it's triggering it, because that's how it feeds. So, being in resistance to the entity is what causes the physical body stress. Resistance. Don't want. Go away. Yeah, that's the stress. That's the closing. And that's also the tension. Not able to relax. Not able to, fear. when you understand, however, that nothing happens randomly, this has a purpose, and it came, this was orchestrated from the higher realms for the purpose of healing, for the purpose of coming into a more expanded consciousness, awareness, more deeper opening into trusting life. And also more opening of the heart. So now you know that as you raise your frequency, there's always going to be everything that is lower of frequency coming up, and thereby then being at center stage. And that is what you feel then. You feel the lower frequency. You don't feel the higher frequency, even though it is the higher frequencies having come in that produced from the depths, from the dungeons, from the forgetting realm, from the underworld, from the unconscious realm of your being, produced, gathered, triggered onto the surface this low frequency to be experienced. However, experience in the sense of felt, in the sense of fully received. Now, if you go into resistance of your own low frequencies, of your own pain, then you are suffering. Then you are truly suffering. Then you are not in this place of, okay, I'm going through, I'm feeling the pain, I'm feeling the sorrow, I'm in that right now. But you are not in your mind, there is no resistance, there is no judgment of you shouldn't be having to go through this, or it is a matter of you not being good enough spiritually. That you're having to go through this. Oh, you're still not, out there, happy, dancing, smiling, whatever. Butterfly, I don't know, something, celebrating life, celebrating. Oh, you're still here having to feel these, And it's only the mind that will, only the egoic mind that will weave out of feeling all of your compressed negative emotions, all of the emotions that are unpleasant, that will weave something out of it like, oh, you are wallowing, you are still in victim, and so forth, that will actually create a negative identity, which is another identity out of that I'm not good enough. Just another facet of I'm not good enough out of that. When in actuality, it's just an opportunity for you. Your higher self has created for you. So you can simply feel this part of yourself that you haven't been able to so far. And this is not something that is in your control. So you come actually to gratitude to this entity. And that is equal with love and compassion. And you don't even put a face to it, you don't put a story to it, it's simply a feeling within you. So you go from resistance into gratitude. And that makes the whole body open up. There's no more resistance then. You just completely open up to what is. So whether the entity is still there or not, doesn't even matter. But what you know is that you're being in that openness and gratitude, which is not something you can tell yourself to do. It's not something you can, like a recipe, okay, so I'm going to be in gratitude, so then that entity will leave, or that entity will dissolve out of my reality. It's not a means to an end, as a recipe. It's not possible. It would be fooling yourself. Because you are still coming from, if you still have the desire, this is really important. If you still notice that there is the slightest bit of desire to get rid of this entity, then you are still in resistance, you are still in fear, you are not in acceptance, you are not in trust. And you are still coming from that part in yourself that is the platform of the entity. You're still coming from the egoic mind. And as kind of a victim consciousness. Which is the stage that you've been through. You go through that stage in the beginning until you become aware of that mechanism and you move on to the next stage of how you meet existence, experience, reality. It's simply a stage of where you're at in your process. And before you do not acknowledge the part of you that feels like a victim, that feels invaded, that does resist, that does fight, you cannot move beyond it into your truth. You first have to become aware of the identification and all the beliefs that are there. You have to live that, be that, and be aware of that until it doesn't. And then you have like your method that you work through when you're in that consciousness, until that doesn't resonate anymore because you've been expanding beyond it, because you haven't been acknowledging what is and where you're at. And it's no lesser than. It's no lesser than. It's simply, you know, along a road. Is it lesser to be in the beginning of the trail, in the middle of the trail, at the end of the trail? You're walking the trail. Is it lesser to be younger or older? Is it lesser to be in 2nd grade than in 7th grade? No, it has absolutely no value. Is the color yellow better than the color green? You see, it makes no sense. It is only the egoic mind that will put this into not good enough, better than, either inflated or deflated, which is both a polarity, which is a polarity within duality, within the separation from who we are, from our alignment, within the illusion of who we are, within an identified image of who we are, living out of this artificial movie reel that is going on in the mind, instead of reality as it is, as your true self experiences it. Your divine nature. So first we go through everything that's in the way of that, and we have to, in order to really become aware of it, we are it, we experience it as it, we are fully identified, and first then when we become aware of this identification, and hence with the identification all the respective reaction modes and methods of meeting what is. First then, when we become aware of it, we move beyond it. And that means to shed that skin of identification, to become lighter, literally. So there is no more this mindset, this come from in consciousness that, and if there is, you will notice it, and you will notice it's not your truth anymore. That is, I want to get rid of this entity. Can you feel that? There's no longer that desire. At the same time, it does not mean, because the mind will make this into that, it does not mean that there is any desire to hold on to it either. Of course not. You are absolutely simply open to what is. And with that, your heart opens. With that acceptance, as opposed to resistance. Just for the mind, because you have that, it's going on in your mind. Just to clarify and to get this point clear, this is not a polarity. Resistance is not the opposite of acceptance. This is within duality. Acceptance is the 0 point. And then the 0 point has a pole into the two opposites, the male-female principle. And then that will be expressed through the two polar opposites. Acceptance, that is the 0 point. Or in duality, in the separation, resistance will be expressed in the polarity of female-male principle. But acceptance and resistance are not a polarity. They are in duality. Okay. So now you can feel in your body, first of all, as we started this session, light language came through. So beautiful. And you could feel how the light language moved energy within you. You had no idea what you're saying, of course. But you were moving energy. That was happening, just like the light language. And it is a sound vibrational healing. And in that sound vibrational healing of the light language, you will also speak that which you are transforming, dissolving, which is a transformation. It is like energy moving through an instrument and creating sounds. And it is incorporating all of you, your whole multi-dimensional being. Not all of it, but let's see. That which is pertinent now for this. It is bringing through and it is incorporating. It is addressing. It is a part of and an expression of. So it is bringing your multidimensional aspects into alignment, into harmony with each other, and into awareness of each other. It is tying them together. It is bringing them in here as one in your expression of this vessel, of your soul in this vessel. Your multidimensional soul. So you're bringing in more of yourself, more of your soul aspects through the light language. And it is also a meditation. It is a very helpful tool also. Of course, it just happens. But it is a wonderful form of meditation, as is channeling as well. Your mind has to be still in order for the light language to come through. And so, in the same way with the channeling. So now you can feel after this how it has shifted into full acceptance of this entity. There is no more desire to get rid of it, and no more desire to, and never was a desire to, obviously that doesn't mean there's a desire to hold on to it. We only say this because that this is being recorded, and so for any mind that wants to then think, oh, now you're, that doesn't make any sense, now you want to attach to it or whatever. Yeah, it's just to make sure that it means open, open, open. It means also now your heart is open and all you feel for this situation, whether the entity is still there or not, is love. It's brought you back into love, into a little bit of a more opening in your heart. Now you know that it is all about, in order for, because you are not against the entity. The entity is doing you a service. Now you're looking at it from this higher perspective because you're ready, because you've been through the stages before. This is not resonating for everyone, obviously. Because you cannot tell yourself to be grateful for an entity attachment, for an entity invasion, when you're absolutely not. That would be actually not acknowledging yourself where you're at. That would not be love. That would not be self-love at all. That would be adding insult to the injury, that would be not being compassionate towards yourself, and that would shut down your heart even more if you skip that step, and it would bring you more into division. And this is all about mending the divide, coming together, coming together, coming into alignment, coming into harmony, heart coherence. And as you know, this is raising your vibration and making it not a good place for this entity anymore, not a place it wants to stay. Now, whether it's still there or not, I don't know. We don't know. We can't say. That is not what wants to be, that we can't say, because it is not the matter. It is not the matter, whether it's there, whether it's not there. Because what we are focused on is what within us is in resistance. What within us is in adversity to what is. What within us is in division, is in pain, is in suffering. That's all that matters, is that we sit with that, we receive that, we love that, we're open to that. We're open to that because we know that when we feel that, when we are aware of that, that is the beginning of making contact to healing it. Making contact to with a warm hand onto ice, or onto an ice cold hand, and warming that, bringing that back to life. An ice cold hand that was frozen and felt like it was dead and it was suffering and it was so frozen that you weren't even aware of it. But now you're becoming, through the entity that attached to it, aware of it. And so you go there into that pain and you hold your warm hand that is fully alive and aware and feel that ice. You can feel that ice, and as you feel it, you melt it. And so now you are already in gratitude to what happened. And that's all we're asking you to feel, and to be in that truly aware of, yes, there is something, yes, I am grateful for this, because all the gifts it is unveiling within me, all the opportunity for a remembering of myself on a deeper level. And this, of course, is also the healing of the entity. And not that you have to worry about the entity, but this is the best thing you can do for it as well. So as to not simply have it jump onto another and leech onto another. I mean, that's not even, you're not even thinking about preventing that. But certainly this being, then this situation on both sides, let's say on your side and on the perspective side from the entity, is coming about because there is something here in the field that is in pain and hasn't been seen within you and within the entity. So there's something that has come very much out of alignment that is showing itself now, causing this unpleasantness. And so as you are healing yourself, you also heal the entity to a certain degree. You're doing the best thing you can. Just as when you heal yourself, you heal that aspect of all that is, of the whole. And we only say this because there is a notion within the field of entity removal, that I'm just getting the image of a tick. So let's say you get a tick in the forest, and then you just throw the tick, take the tick off, and you keep it alive, and you make sure it stays alive, and then, or you don't. But anyways, you have some kind of a parasite, and you take it and you just throw it out into the field, and then it could latch on to the next person. So then the notion is, well, we have to kill the parasite before we leave it into. Then there's this whole notion, and that's what we mean is not necessary at this level of understanding or inner standing and consciousness, because as you come to this opening, it is also taking care of the entity without having any focus on the entity whatsoever. The entity is only providing the opportunity to be focused on this unpleasant feeling within you, and to be to open up to it, to come out of resistance. But there is no focus on the entity. We're coming out of this older way, the stage that is before, of getting rid of removing. We're coming into remembering, and thereby everything, that situation is taken care of. And as you go through this, your ability to remember and accept, and thereby come out of resistance and surrender, and thereby your body not having to suffer so much, not being in such stress, that will grow and grow and grow now. So you can come out of suffering quicker and quicker whenever this should happen again. So now we just want you to sit with this gratitude and acceptance, in this peace that installs after such transformation. Notice now when you go into your daily craft, whenever that thought should come up, if it should ever come up again, I want to get rid of. I need to get rid of. I need to do something to get rid of. And know that, notice that this is the egoic mind mechanism still playing that old identity of victim consciousness, trying to keep that alive. But you don't step on that train. It doesn't have anywhere to hook into you because you're aware of it. And so it can only, every time it does this with the power that it still has left, which is still the unconscious that's within you, and it comes to show itself to the consciousness that has been born now. And every time it doesn't have anything to latch on to, it will lose power. And it takes power to, it takes that charge. So every time the charge is released, it loses power. So it gets weaker and weaker and weaker until it doesn't show up anymore. Wow. And now, when the thought of this entity, is it still there? Not. When it arises, what you notice is, because you are in gratitude that there's actually love. There's only love there. So when there's love, there is nothing that can hurt you. Wow. But you must come to this love. This love isn't, it's buried. And you come to it through all the previous stages. You can't just say, oh, just love it. No, you can't. You must love what is, and what is that? You can't even do that, sorry. You can't even do that. You can't even accept what is. Until you can. And this begins in the aha, in the resonance of yes, 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 the resonance of your soul. And it starts small. The holding space and acceptance what is. But once it's there, it just keeps growing. And you simply only accept what you can accept. What you cannot change. What is. So, if you're feeling a certain way, and then your egoic mind kicks in and presents you with a story in which, because you're feeling this way, you're not good enough. Then you notice that. And as you notice that, you accept that. You only accept what you notice. And that's the beginning of the dissolution of that program, of that disempowering program, and of that illusory identification, and of that cause of suffering. You can actually feel right now into your heart, because it has opened, it has expanded. And it even feels like a warmth in your heart. It feels good. Like muscles after they have worked out. So it allows you to actually be aware of your heart. physically, and place your attention there. Getting entities is the same as receiving a virus, by the way. It's the same mechanism, just in a different expression. So you don't go out into the world being afraid of receiving entities. So you don't hug anyone anymore, or you don't hang out with that person anymore from which you knew you got the last entity or something like that. No, you don't even think like that anymore when you're at this stage. You can't, because you can see that there are no mistakes. Not even a single virus that you caught somewhere in your life along the way, any parasitical organism that you caught somewhere along the way, any accident that you had. Orchestrated perfection. Consciousness in action, expressed in the physical, creating a stage for itself to wake up in a very, very dense physicality. Every single tiny little virus or bacteria plays a role in that, is an expression of that. And of course, the way it is that when you are in such open reception, and this is, again, this is not something that you can say that you are, make yourself to be. No, no. It's always degrees, to the degree that you are. The mind cannot, you cannot make yourself. You cannot follow a recipe and then you are this open. No. Consciousness awakes and resonates and expresses. And by resonance and osmosis, it awakens itself more and more and more. Sound waves. So as you are open, let's say, to a certain degree, and as you are open, the openness creates the trust in life, the relaxation of the body. This allows for the light to come through. This raises your frequency. And as you know, that's your immune system. So you could, I mean, I'm just now getting the image of Jesus and the lepers. You know, he could be amongst all those lepers. Was he ever in any kind of danger to catch leprosy? No, it was impossible. Just his light's so strong. The light body is so strong. The vibration's so high. There's no way that these lower vibrations, they're not even drawn to that. You know, like viruses or illnesses, or you know whatever you can catch, bacteria and entities as well, of course. They're not drawn to that. When there's no docking station, they don't even notice it. It's not in their field. They don't share. They don't share space. They don't interface. But as you hear this, you become more and more trusting. If it resonates, and it accelerates your process in your evolution. This is why we share, and we want to share. That is the only reason. Is to inspire. Inspire this awareness. Spread it. Sound it into the world. Broadcast. And now, as the frequency is ours, we can progress so much quicker, so much easier, because the support is growing. The support of the light is growing. The birth of the light is not like a very difficult, painful birth anymore. It becomes more and more and more easier. Yes. And that's for everyone. Yes. Now we want you to sit a bit more and just in this stillness. Don't leave the recording on, don't change anything.